You should have this document already, but if not, you can look at this one and write down whatever you need. But this is the criteria that I'll be asking for this grading plan design. The minimum grade needs to be 0.5 where water flows off pavement. I'll explain what that means in a little bit. The maximum grade is 5% on all pavement in all directions. On pavement, though, we need to understand that it's just on pavement. The typical sidewalk cross slope is 2%. We'll be modeling that in a little bit, and I think I already mentioned curb heights of 0.5 feet or 6 inches. But in this case, we're working with decimal feet. It will be 0.5 feet. Minimum and maximum grades. As far as the minimum and maximum grades, the minimum and maximum grades are on pavement. So the 0.5% is minimum, meaning the water is going to be flowing in this direction. So that minimum grade needs to be 0.5%. The water is going to be flowing in this direction and in this direction. Anything less than 0.5 is too flat and it's hard to build, and most of the time just is not built correctly. The 5% maximum is also in these areas. We cannot have anything more than 5% in any of these areas. Now, we are going to have some areas where we're going to be as flat as 0%, for example, in front of the building. The building is a flat surface. So the building is flat, and there's nothing wrong with that because you want a flat floor on a building. The 2% grade on the building, let me zoom in here so we can kind of see this a little bit better. The 2% slope on the sidewalk is for the sidewalk in front, and the 2% will be across in this direction. This is where we're going to have the 2%, and that's very typical of sidewalks. So remember, the building is going to be flat, the 2% sidewalk cross slope will be here, and then water will be flowing in this direction. So remember, this is where we need to have the minimum maximum of 0.5 minimum and 5% maximum grades. I will tell you right now, the grade from here to here, because of the fact that we're coming from a flat building, coming down at a cross slope of 2%, this grade, this direction will be 0%. So it'll be flat. It is less than the minimum, but remember, water is not running sideways. The water is running downhill in this direction. So as long as we have the way water is flowing at a minimum of 0.5%, we will satisfy those conditions. From here to here, again, this will be the cross slope in this direction will be 0% because the elevation we have the building is all flat. This whole building is all one elevation, whatever that elevation is going to be, which we'll be doing here in the next few steps. The cross slope this way is 2%. So because of that, this elevation here and this elevation here will be the same. So considering that, the grade across from here to here will be 0%. But remember, water is not flowing this way. Water is flowing away from the building. And we can see that on the topo surface. We can see that by when we labeled our contours, and that we have a 3807, 3806, 3805, all the way down to 3803, 3802. So naturally, this surface is already draining in this direction, which works out with our design. So I suspect that once we put our building más o menos or close to the elevation of 3807, down to an existing grade of 3802, that's about a 5-foot difference vertically, we should be okay. Let's hope that we're still within the criteria. So to start checking with that, we're going to use our 3D feature lines. You're going to use a layer that you created. The way we're going to do that, we're going to go to grading and draw feature lines. But I just remembered we do need to do another step because as far as the elevation of the feature lines, I don't know that yet. So we do need to put in a surface label, specifically a spot elevation. So the spot elevations I'm going to start with is I'm going to put these spot elevations on this corner here, one on this corner, one on this corner of the building, and this corner of the building. So what are those elevations? Those are elevations at that point along the existing ground surface. That's why when we're putting in the surface labels, it specifically says a surface label, a spot elevation along the surface. And those are live, meaning if I grip this label and I move it around, notice that the numbers change because the terrain is changing at each point. So just make sure you leave it at this point right here, and we'll continue on our next video.